Welcome to the Money GPS. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I've got big news. You know the petrodollar, you know the US dollar's reserve currency status is really hinging on Saudi Arabia pricing its oil in US dollars. But what if that changes? That's what we'll talk about right now, front and center. The second thing I want to look at is the Russian debt default. What is the progress on that? Will it happen? Has it already happened? And the third thing is the margin calls that have been taking place right now. With commodity prices rising high, some companies have started to lose their shirts. I've got all of that and more. Let's begin. The first thing, Saudi Arabia considers accepting yuan instead of dollars for Chinese oil sales. Bombshell. I'm sure you've probably already heard of this. If not, let's dig in. The Wall Street Journal has this article here. Talks between Riyadh and Beijing have accelerated as the Saudi unhappiness continues to grow with Washington. There are many reasons for that, of course. Now, quick refresher, what happens here is that the US military provides protection to Saudi Arabia. In exchange, the US basically gets this monopoly. Yeah, we're going to price all of our sales of oil in US dollars. That gives the United States a really big lead, a monopoly, if you will. That reserve currency status, the linchpin on that is this. The linchpin doesn't mean that if Saudi Arabia starts to do something else that it's going to be the end of the US dollar instantly. But that's the linchpin. So remember that. Saudi Arabia is in active talks with Beijing to price some of its oil sales to China in yuan. People familiar with the matter said a move that would dent, I will go farther than dent, the US dollar's dominance of the global petroleum market and mark another shift in the world's top crude exporter towards Asia. Saudi sees what's going on, and they're starting to look towards the east and saying China's coming up. They have a voracious appetite for oil, and maybe it makes sense that we start being friendlier to that country. And that's what's going on here. Maybe they see this whole, multipolar world developing. And so they are trying to be strategic about it. There are many reasons why I don't know what's going on the inside, and generally I don't speculate on these things. But I want to bring it to you because I think it's key. I think it's important. China buys more than 25% of the oil that Saudi Arabia exports. That's big. If priced in yuan, those sales would boost the standing of China's currency. The Saudis are also considering including yuan-denominated futures contracts known as the petro-yuan in the pricing model of Saudi Arabian Oil Co., known as Aramco. Big. Both of these factors here are so important, so big. And of course, there's, you can look at the details to get into the, all the little things. There's clearly more of an alliance today than before. They're partnering up. Same situation with China and Russia. We know that as well. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But, I'm not going to get into a lot of the speculation of what could and what is there, but we know some facts. This is the linchpin. So let's get into the next factor here. What to expect as Russia warns of historic debt default. Moscow accuses the West of forcing artificial default as dollar payments fall due on Wednesday. So they're basically saying, we're sanctioned. We can't use this system, this dollar system. We can't use the, highways and roads because you blocked us from it. And now you're suggesting that we're going to default? We'll pay. Here you go. But no, that isn't the case. So I want to make it clear. In effect, they're kind of defaulting because they're saying, well, we can't use their system, so we can't pay you. But the cash is there. So in a sense, that's the way it goes. But I want to look at it just one step deeper. Because I know some of you would say, no, it didn't default. That's not happening. Let's just hold that thought. Russia is due to make 2 interest payments on its dollar bonds on Wednesday, but it's unclear whether Western investors will actually receive their cash, potentially lining up a uniquely messy government debt default. This happened, 20 years ago essentially, and what would go on this time around? It could be much more devastating. All right, here we go. Will Moscow pay? Russia is scheduled to hand investors a total of 117 million in interest payments on 2 of its bonds. It has a standard 30-day grace period in which to pay up. If it doesn't, that would be a default. But here it is. Look at it. Just over the past couple weeks, you're getting let's say think of it like 20 cents on the dollar. Think of it in that respect. So if you're holding, let's just think about it. You're holding a stock. You're holding anything. It was worth 100, and now it's worth 20. Is it a default? Is it worthless? I mean, does it have some value? I mean, how do you want to define that? It was 100, now it's 20. Could it go up? Yeah. But could it go down to 0? Yeah, that's possible. I mean, it's really unbelievable to look at what could happen in the investment world. You see the, black swan events, you see the unlikely scenarios, you see things that are far-fetched, but they do happen on occasion. That's all I'm trying to say. Look here. Russia is spiraling toward a $150 billion default nightmare. What happens with bond payments due Wednesday that could kickstart Russia's first foreign currency default since the 1917 revolution? So they do talk about this in depth here in this Bloomberg article. If you want to check it out, you got to understand it's big. This is not just, some bond that they didn't pay back. It's a lot of money. There are a lot of companies that are here involved. Russia's economy, certainly not one of the biggest in the world, but it does have reverberations. Okay, here we go. Signs of looming financial damage are becoming apparent at many of the world's biggest money managers, including your friends, BlackRock, those people that are that company that's tied with the Federal Reserve. Yes. It's not likely to be limited to these giant funds because much of Russia's debt was rated investment grade weeks ago. And now suddenly, what is it? Junk. So you rate it junk, the rating agencies, all of them, they're Moody's, Fitch, all of them are saying, no, you're junk now. So suddenly it's uninvestable and the funds start dumping this thing. This will be a monumental default. In dollar terms, it will be the most impactful emerging market default since Argentina's. In terms of broader market impact, it's probably the most broadly felt emerging market default since Russia itself in 1998. So here you go. Just taking a look at that. All the different examples right here. What Russia owns companies are on the hook for about 105 billion in foreign currency debt. So just list that all through. And so we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. Will they pay back? They're saying they want to pay back, but if you're sanctioning us, we can't. So I want to know what you think about this. They're squeezing them clearly here. Let me know in the comments. Upcoming Russia external bond payment. So for these, March 16th, by the time you're watching this video, it's March 16th. Actually, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so it is March 16th. They don't have an alternative payment currency. So in some of these examples here, like on the 21st and the 28th, they can use alternate currencies to pay back. But in this one, they must pay back in US dollars. So I'm interested to see what happens. I think it is really key to watch. How Russia's war in Ukraine is shuffling US alliances in Latin America. They do talk about this. And they get into this with Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. All of these different examples, and how things can change very quickly. Because if Russia starts to, go into the Ukraine, they do something that some of these countries don't agree with, well, then that puts pressure on them. And they do give examples in here. I don't have time to get into it at all, but I just wanted to make you aware that what we're seeing right now could, in fact, push some countries further away from Russia. And maybe they have to have more reliance on the US. Maybe they were suddenly real friendly to Russia, but now they say, that's not going to look good on us. So we got to back away. Okay? Just watch very carefully how other countries start reacting. I wanted to mention this once again. I talked about it in a previous video, but one of the most underrated, I don't know if that's the right word, but situations that's going on in Ukraine right now is the fact that when the factories are shut down, when the supply chains are messed up in Ukraine, semiconductors are going to feel the pinch again. German parts supplier Leoni said production has been interrupted at its two western Ukraine plants, that it's looking for temporary alternatives. We are aware that the situation is currently affecting not only Leoni, but the entire industry, because Ukraine is among the world's largest suppliers of neon, a gas that's used in lasers that help etch integrated circuits onto the computer chips. So these computer chips rely on that. Ukraine's pushing out, I think it was 50% or something really large. You shut them down, they got a problem. All right, guys. Russian central bank halts purchases of gold from banks to meet household demand. The demand is so hot. Why? Because the currency is falling, inflation is picking up, interest rates are rising. They're concerned what's going to happen. They're being let out, shut out of the financial system. So there is literally this demand so hot for what? What are they buying? They're buying physical precious metal. Physical precious metal. That's the real deal. Trouble right now, and people rush to go and buy it instead of buying it last year. Instead of buying it 6 months ago, they rush right now. Don't do that. And I know so many of you don't do that. You know what's up. You know what's going on. And I'm proud of you. I see all the comments. Really good stuff to see how knowledgeable, how intelligent many subscribers are. So I think it's good stuff. And I just try to show you this to make you realize you don't want to be stuck in that case. You don't want to be stuck in these situations. So you got to make your preparations in advance. Not when everybody's talking about something, chances are it's too late. Okay. That's all for this video. If you appreciate the information, hit that thumbs up button. Hope it wasn't too much of a rant, all different places. It'll trigger some people, but what can I do? I just, I have an entire video just waiting, ready to go. I'll bring it out tomorrow. That just so much data coming through, and I don't want to do 7 different videos in a day. So I try to put them together in one, and there's always this struggle. Should I talk about that? Should I not? Anyway, there's a rant. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.